Asset markets have certainly delivered positive returns over the first half of 2024 for investors, and in particular those in multi-asset portfolios. We'll now look to the second half of the year and see what that can bring. So as we look at just the week ahead in this instance and think about what key data points the investment team will be focusing on, I think it's firstly quite important to start that this might be a slightly different week for asset markets, particularly as it relates to politics. As we sit here on Monday morning, we're coming in and we're digesting the news from the first round of the French election on Sunday, and certainly that has pretty much gone to expectation, with the National Party coming out with the largest share of the vote in the first round. And that certainly sets us up for a degree of political noise over the course of this week as those other parties look to form coalitions to then stand against the National Rally Party on Sunday's runoff on the 7th of July. Also, from a political perspective, it's not lost on any of us that we've got the general election here in the UK this week. Again, pretty much clear from what the polls are telling us at this point, but as we know, a week can be a long time in politics, and we'll certainly look to see how that plays out both in the UK but also in France across this week. If we just look at markets this morning and how they've reacted to the outcome in France, very much a slightly stronger equity and bond market and a bit of strength for the euro as well. If we turn then just to the normal course of economic events that we see over the first week of a new month, really the focus will be into the US initially, very much looking at some of the survey data that comes at the beginning of the week, and then to the jobs numbers towards the end of the week, with the openings report on Thursday and then the non-farm payrolls on Friday. Expectations today, looking for 215,000 jobs to be added, the unemployment rate to remain unchanged at 4%. Other notable events over the course of the week, we have the ECB's annual conference taking place in Portugal. Probably unlikely that we'll hear anything of economic significance coming out of that, just given that political backdrop that we have in France. But interestingly, just yesterday, was notable that the Bank for International Settlements, the BIS, which is the sort of the central bank's bank, for want of a way to describe it, really just putting a bit of caution towards central banks and saying, be careful in this cutting of interest rate phase that you don't reignite that inflation genie. So a bit of caution there coming in to frame that discussion. We don't often talk about Australia, but I think it does link quite nicely to that BIS comment. We heard last week from the RBA governor that they did consider raising interest rates. We get the minutes from that meeting. Again, will be interesting to see the criteria that they're looking for and to see how that might influence future decisions from the RBA. Just this morning then, to round out, we had Chinese economic data in terms of the manufacturing PMI remaining unchanged month on month, 49.5, and really that's in that contraction territory still. So really continues to highlight that challenge that we see in China in terms of getting some form of sustainable economic momentum over the recent months. Please do join the rest of the investment team through the course of this week as we'll be focusing in on those key events.